Demonstration video on Burstner 07CE 5403. When open up your habitation door, when you open it fully, it locks in position through these latches here, the top and the bottom. You can feel it kind of double there and there, and that keeps the door open. To bring the step out is this button here. So that's it in, and that's it out. Your control panel, it's just here on the left hand side as you come through. This wee icon here, this wee light, lights up when you're plugged into the mains. So to turn the van on and off, press this wee button up, you can see it comes on there, and you have your time comes up here. To turn it back off again, just simply press that button down. So we're on. You have different levels. Here you have your leisure battery, which is the battery on the rear of the van, and then your engine battery, which is the front of the van. To get the readings for them, for your leisure battery, push the button up. You can see we're nearly charging the 14 volts. If I was to pull the mains out here now, it would drop down to about 12.5, between 12.5 and 13 volts. But because that's up to 14, that shows you we're charging. And the engine battery is just above 12.5. Again, once you run the engine, it'll jump up to nearly 14 as well. Beside it, we have our fresh water and waste. So press up for your fresh water. It's the bottom one, the blue one. The blue stripe here is for your waste, or for your fresh and waste water. So up here we're 3/4 full, and for your waste we're full, which I must empty that now. Here, by the way, this wee triangle is an air triangle. If you're wild camping or your leisure battery drops below a certain voltage, this here will light up to say charge your leisure battery or you have a fault with your leisure battery. So if you're not plugged into the mains and you're just running off your leisure battery and it goes down below a certain level, usually below 12, 11.5 volts, this here will light up and that's an alarm to tell you, do you get yourself plugged into the mains or you have a problem. Here is your water pump. So if you want to run your tap at the sink, bathroom and shower, you have to have this turned on. So that's it off, and that's it on. Your heating controls is also here just below the pleasure or the control panel. Your heating only works on one mode, and that's in gas. So to turn for heating is this first one here, the wee flame. Is for your heating, that's the main heating of the van. The bottom one is for warm water and the heating. Now, it would be kind of slow to run the heating and the warm water at the same time. It's recommended to heat up your van, and your warm water is up here. Just turn up to 40 degrees or 60 degrees. So probably for your heating, turn this down to your heating. This controls the speed of your fan. And then for your warm water, the zero here in the middle is at the off position. For your warm water, you have 40 degrees or 60 degrees. So we'll go back down to heating. You can see the green light on there. If that turns red, you have an error. Just make sure your gas bottle is turned on if that does turn red. As I said before, here is for your warm water for the gas. Here is your electric immersion heater. So simply to turn it on, press that down. You can see it, the green light comes on there. So that's for your electric immersion heater. The heating on the van itself is just on gas only. But you have an electric immersion heater and you have the gas immersion heater. You have vents throughout the van. You can see down here, them wee round vents. That's where the hot air comes from. And you have one down here and throughout different places in the van. So you'll feel the warm air coming through them. Your fridge has 4 modes. You have gas, electric, leisure battery and automatic. What automatic means, if you have the automatic setting, it will select the biggest power supply available to the fridge. So at the minute, because I'm plugged in, it's the electric. If I was to unplug the van now, it switches automatically to gas. And once I start the engine, it goes to leisure battery. The leisure battery mode, either on automatic or manual, you see it turns red, will not work unless the engine is started. The reason being, the leisure battery mode is for travelling purposes only. So if you're going from campsite to campsite, recommended to use the leisure battery mode. If you're setting automatic anyway, it automatically goes to leisure battery once you start the engine. You can also change manually. So there's gas, you'll hear it sparkling at the back. If it doesn't light, this here wee orange light flashes. So that's it off, so I'll go to gas. You can hear it sparkling for a few seconds and then you hear a puff and that's it lit. The control here controls your temperature. So simply just down to minimum and turn it up to max. To open the fridge, simply you have a lock and unlock position. Simply turn it, slide it over and your fridge opens up. And then slide it back into the lock position. Same with the freezer. The oven and grill, to open it up, simply lift this up and lift it up. To light your grill, turn on to your grill setting, push this in, you'll hear it sparking and the grill lights up. Same with the oven, turn your knob to the oven setting, left hand side, hold the button in and you can see it lights up. Then to turn the whole thing off again, just go back to 0. And you can close your door down. Your gas hob is here, same process again. You will need a sparkler or a match or a lighter. Turn your knob on, turn your knob around, hold it on, spark down to your hob and it will light. You have a thrust switch in your wardrobe. It's for your 230. Anything coming through the 230 volt from the mains goes through this thrust switch, the same as at home. So the trips always have to be on that position. So if you have a problem with your 230, like your fridge isn't working on 230 or you think your van's not charging, make sure them trips is up and not down. And that's in the wardrobe. You have a fuse box and your battery charger for your leisure battery is underneath the passenger seat. It has a hatch down there, you can see just the wires. Anything running on 12 volt on this van, on the back of the van, the fuses is down between the passenger seat. When filling your freshwater tank, you fill from the outside of the van, but you have a plug. Your freshwater tank, by the way, is underneath the living area. Lift the cushions and pull up this hatch here. You have a plug like your sink inside the tank, make sure it's in place. To empty that, just pull out that plug. Recommended during the winter time to empty the van full of water. So pull out that plug. You have a frost valve on the back, which I'll show you in a second. Run your taps. The pump on, make sure your pump is turned on here. Run your taps until all pipes is emptied. You can blow on through the pipes onto the taps again to get the excess water out through the pipes. Recommended to do this during the winter. For if a sharp frost comes, it could bust your pipes and you will have a water leak and it's very hard to find. Your frost valve here in the back, the very back garage door. On the right hand side here, through a wee small hatch, is the wee green, or the wee red button, sorry. That has to be pulled up. So to empty that, right, to empty that or to open that up, push that button down. When you're filling your van full of water for the first time, so make sure the sink, or the plug in the freshwater tank is plugged in, and this red button is pulled up. If you find this red button does not pull up and doesn't stay up, it's because the van is too cold. So if you run your heating for about half an hour, go back to this red button and it should stay up by itself. The purpose of the frost valve, if it gets too cold and your van's full of water, usually below 2 degrees, that button automatically drops itself and pumps the water. The water empties through the boiler to stop the pipes from freezing as well. To make up the bed on the living area, there is a rail where your table disconnects from the top rail and hooks on to the bottom one. You have a leg, a shorter leg. There's the longer leg, which is used for the top rail. That just pulls out, and the shorter leg just slides up onto it, and this here end of it slides in and out, so you can pull this up here and the whole thing slides back in again. Now you see here it has to slide over the top of that, slightly lift over, and you can see it latches on behind that. So we lift that out, pull it out, and reach over to the table, and you use your cushions then to make up the mattress. There you can see the legs, that's the long leg by the way. It just slides up onto here. Just slides up on over the top of that. And the shorter one just slides on back into it. There's an extension to the end of this table that fits on, just clips on at the edge of the table. You can extend the table right out to about here. For the bed above the cab, the two front seats have to fold down. Just pull this back and your seats push down. Release the seat belt and pull the whole thing down. You have a ladder which attaches onto that rail there, and you can climb up and down. Also a blind here that pulls up and down using that cord there, and lights as well. Your toilet has an electric flush, and the contents go onto a cassette, a separate cassette which you have to empty yourself. So to use the flush, simply press this button. As you can see, it fills up. To empty the contents then, just pull this lever here, and that empties into the cassette. Now, your cassette will not pull out with this flap open, so make sure this flap is closed. Alright, so that's open, that's closed. The cassette is in the rear of the van. Pull up this green lever and pull out. This pulls the whole way out to empty the contents. It comes through this funnel, unscrew here. This turns straight on out to here, and you can empty the contents down a gully or a toilet facilities depending on where you're at. And just push the whole thing back in again until this locks in behind the wee ridge, and that's it. Your gas locker on the right hand side of the van is an 11 kg bottle. To turn it on and off, it's just on and off this top one here. So turn it clockwise to turn it off, then anti-clockwise to turn the gas on. And that's just basically how to turn it on and off. To change these bottles, these here is left hand thread. So to loosen this, instead of lefty loosey, righty tighty, it's lefty tighty, righty loosey. So when you're changing bottles, this is an adapter here to suit this pipe. So you have to take this adapter with you. You need 2 spanners to tighten them up, one to hold this adapter and the other to tighten up here. Both these is left hand thread. So when you're changing bottles to a new bottle, make sure, if you haven't already got another adapter on the bottle, make sure you take this adapter off as well, and the gas has to be turned off while doing this. This regulator also fits the 6 kg bottle. So if you're fitting, say, 11 kg and next to it a 6 kg, if you want to fit the 6 kg, all you have to do is disconnect this bit and leave this adapter behind. This part of here will screw straight into the 6 kg bottle. We'll screw this out, remember it's left hand thread, and this could be left behind. To lock and unlock the locker doors on the left hand side, first of all make sure it's latched in. That's the locker open. Make sure it's closed. The key in, turn it clockwise and push and that stays in by itself when the barrel is in the lock position. To open it, turn it anti-clockwise and you can see the whole thing pops out and you can reopen the lock. So to lock it, turn it clockwise and push in. On the left hand side you have your electrical hookup. It's there. Here is where you fill your freshwater tank of fresh water. Just an ordinary garden hose. Just stick it down that hole and you can fill until that overflows. So as long as your red cap on the freshwater tank is on place, you can fill that there until it flows out of here. Your leisure battery is in here. It's just on a locker on the left hand side of the van, just behind the passenger door. And here is your diesel fill up. Do not get confused between your diesel and your fresh water. It says there washer, which means water. Do not put your water into your diesel or diesel into your water. To open up the bonnet, it's in here. There's a wee small lever. Just pull that back and that opens up your bonnet. There's a wee catch just underneath the bonnet. You pull that back as well and the whole bonnet raises up.
Sorry, say that again?
On the dash for your radio you have a master switch, so make sure that's turned on for your radio. So that's your radio off and then turn it on again, brings your radio on. Your reversing camera, the last owner hadn't wired up to reverse, so it stays on all the time. Just press on power. As you can see, you have your reversing camera. This does not turn off with the ignition or on with the ignition. So once you turn off the ignition, make sure you turn this off and make sure you turn your radio off, otherwise your engine battery will run down. For your awning, you have a pole, it simply just goes, wee hook goes up between the eye and you just simply wind out. I'll just wind it out here and bring it back in. So your awning, when wound out, it does wind out a lot further than this, by the way. You can lower and extend the feet and legs as we turn that knob. It folds back into place. The foot slides in behind here So to pull it out, pull out the leg, as you can see, pull back, and that brings the foot out, and that lowers the whole thing down. The whole thing pivots here. So to put it back in again, just slide it on behind that red bracket, as you can see. Now I'm winding in the awning again. Wouldn't be advisable to wind out the 1 to 2 a day too, by the way. It can lift and go over the top of the van. But if you can see the way the roll, the cloth comes out underneath the roll, make sure you wind it back in again the same direction as you wind it out. If you have this wound out the full road and wind it in the opposite road, you wreck the cloth. So make sure your cloth is rolled up underneath the roll, not on top of it.